I was gonna film this video without a hat, but then my hair's in a ponytail and due to the lighting, I looked bald without it, so here we are. Hey guys, what's up? It's Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, travel content, miscellaneous collection content. I'm saying it like that because lately I have not been making travel content because pandemic, and I haven't been talking about my miscellaneous collections. Instead, I've been talking about books and movies. So I think I need to change my introduction. So here we are. It is September 9th. These past summer months have been a weird fever dream. Like, I just feel like they haven't existed. I feel like we're still in March and the weather's not helping because here in Chicago it is getting a little colder. It's only in the 60s though, so not so much colder. This year is going by fast because like part of me can't believe it's already September, but at the same time it cannot end soon enough. Not that anything is going to go away on January 1st, 2021. In August I have read 6 books, only one of which was on my TBR from the last video. But we'll get to that. So in this video we're going to talk about the books I read in August and then a tentative September TBR, but I also wanted to talk about my October video plans because I kind of want to change up my channel a bit. I've been watching a lot of movie reactions, so now I kind of want to change my channel a bit. Here we are. I already started it. I don't know if you guys have already noticed because I have 2 movie reactions out right now. More will be coming, but I'll get to that near the end of the video. So without further ado, let's get started with the August wrap-up. So the first book I read is Freaky Friday by Mary Rogers. One of my personal bookish goals is to read every book that was turned into a Disney movie. This book is one of them. Disney has 2 movie adaptations. I think in total this book has about 4 movie adaptations, 2 of which are Disney. The only one I've seen is the one with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. So admittedly, I was going into this book thinking it would be like that. It was nothing like that. So when you go, if that's the version you know, because I know from my generation that is the movie we have all watched growing up. If you want to read this book, erase that movie from your mind. I was able to do that, and I ended up giving this book about 4 stars. Really, it's just an average day of a little girl. She doesn't want to be a little girl anymore, so one morning she wakes up in the body of her mom, and she was so excited because she's like, yeah, I'm an adult and I can do whatever I want. And she basically learns, hey, adults really can't do whatever we want, unfortunately. I think we've all learned the hard way nowadays. And this book is just very reminiscent of the books I read in like 4th, 5th grade, which I think is the target audience for this book. As your quirky main character who always has quirky side comments. I miss the narration style of books I read when I was like 9, 10 years old. I do wish we had an explanation for how the mom did what she did, because in this version, maybe the Disney version too, but in the book it's the mom who's able to switch their bodies, but there's no explanation for that. And I want to add, I have my notes on my lap here, I want to add that this book is from the 70s and it is a product of its time. So fair warning, there's a character who goes on a racist rant, and it's not the main character, it's actually like her nanny. So the main character is like calling her out on her shit, like, hey, you can't be racist, like that's bad, and then fires her. But still, like, just fair warning when you go into that, because some of the things she does say are like not necessarily racist terms we use anymore, but it still doesn't make it okay. Also, the R slur is used in this book, because I'm well aware the R slur was a medical term back then, but it's not for that usage. She's using the R slur to call someone stupid, so fair warning with that as well. So the next book I read is another book that was turned into a Disney movie, and that is Sounder by William H. Armstrong. And this is another like dog book, because remember all those were popular, like Old Yeller, Where the Red Fern Grows, which still makes me cry. But this book is about, I want to say it takes place in the 1930s. Their dad owns a dog named Sounder, but their dad is taken off to jail and the dog is hurt, and it's basically the boy's way of grieving over that situation. I can't say any more without spoiling the book. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars because although the style is actually nice to read, it's very exquisite for like a middle grade book, but it was also kind of boring. None of the characters were named, so like the little boy was literally just the boy and his dad was just dad. The only character that had a name was Sounder. And I was reading about why the author chose to do that, and he wanted to make the story universal by not giving them names, but in the end, I think it just left things too ambiguous. So, I don't know, I'm hesitating. I'm hesitating on critiquing the lack of names because when I was younger, that was my writing style. I did not give my characters names. In my defense, it wasn't for some weird, like, moral. I didn't give my characters names simply because I couldn't choose a name. I was too indecisive. So there's one story I read It's about a couple. They write love letters to each other in the 1940s. No fucking names. So I feel weird like critiquing that style. 3 out of 5 stars. There's nothing more I can expand upon that. I have not seen the Disney movie. Maybe I will. Who knows, because I do have Disney Plus. So the next book was my worst book of this month. Last month, I guess. And of the year. Quite frankly, this has the worst rating. And that is The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. This is a book of poetry. And I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. So trigger warnings for this. I'll not be going into detail my critique, but just to let anyone know if you guys are still interested in this. But she talks about eating disorders, self-harm, suicide, death, rape, and cancer. And they're both explicitly and subtly mentioned. So my biggest gripe with this poetry collection is that so many of these poems were just single sentences that would work so much better if they were in a longer piece of prose and not by themselves. Honestly, and this is not really an unpopular opinion, I was looking through Goodreads and I noticed this is a very common critique. So many of these read as like Instagram captions or tweets I would find just scrolling through minding my own business. And I do have some examples. One poem is, "I'm sorry if I wasn't the daughter you had in mind." Yeah, that's a punch in the gut, but personally, I have seen that line over and over again. One of her poems was, "I could just eat you up," and the style was each word had its own line. I'm not a fan of that. One of her poems was literally just, "I hate you." Like, that was the poem. "I hate you." That was the poem. And I was like, and I think the problem I have with that is that it's not flowery, wow. It's not figurative language. Like, if it was figurative language, that would be one thing. But it's just simple sentences we use in everyday conversation. So that's not what I was expecting going into this book. Many of these poems I found to just be cliches. She has a whole section where it's about her boyfriend turned husband. And everything she says, I have seen time and time again. I remember reading some of that when I was younger. She has a whole section about you, which is meant to empower other women. But like literally everything she says I have seen on motivational posters growing up, you know, in elementary and middle school, in high school, actually not even in high school because that's how juvenile some of them were, because they were just there's a specific poster from my elementary school that I have in mind, and it's literally word for word her poem. Some poems did have metaphors, but I found them to fall flat, and in the end, I did not feel empowered. Honestly, I felt like she was dumbing down herself to talk to me. And I want to go back to the juvenile because I have another example of that. My example is, "Promises whispered in the promises whispered in the rain to be washed away." And again, I've seen similar poems to that. It's reminiscent of poems I wrote when I was 12 for my 7th grade English class. And again, something about her style that irked me was when she would take words, like, she did this with away. She would take words like away, but then rather than keeping it one word, there's a space between each letter, because I guess you're supposed to read it a certain way, but it just didn't work. Especially because nowadays when people type like that, they do that in like a mocking sense, not to be like poetic or anything. So maybe that's why that part was like read really off to me. But I will say, since I commented about how juvenile some of these poems sounded, it begs the question, am I the target audience for this collection? Or did she mean it for girls who are, 12? Would I have enjoyed this poetry collection in my preteen years? Probably. This probably would have been like the r/deep stuff I was obsessed with back then. But then I looked up her target audience, and I wasn't really getting a clear answer because I think other people were just as confused as I was. Some people said it was for adult women. I don't know, but I also noticed the other consensus is that a lot of adult women were not enjoying this, while a lot of younger preteen girls were. Now, I did see another comment from someone who did love this poem, and they were saying how haters don't understand this poetry because we don't understand that modern poetry is in the style of spoken word. I will fully admit there were some poems in here that probably would have worked better if I heard them read to me and not just read it, but it still just didn't work. Like, I've been to spoken poetry events. Like, I did stuff in high school for it. And it was a different feeling. So yeah, this is, unfortunately, my worst read of the year. I'm not a fan, and I will not be continuing her other poetry collections. So then the next book I read is another poetry collection, Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I did not rate it 1 out of 5 stars, but instead I did give it 2.75. Honestly, I found Cora's longer poems to be her strongest. I really enjoyed her longer poems. It was just the shorter poems I have a problem with, because the problem I had with Cora's shorter poems were the problems I had with Lovelace's shorter poems. Granted, some of them I have mixed feelings about, because some of them were actually beautiful because they had the figurative language to keep my attention. They weren't just everyday conversational pieces, but then some of them were. And then, like, just some of them, again, read like Instagram captions, which I know is where she started, so I guess in Ruby Core's defense, she could put it up to that. Or just tweets that I have saved in my drafts. I think as a whole why I rated this higher than the last poetry collection is, again, because I loved her longer poems. But also the collection kind of confuses me. The one with her boyfriend, how, like, when they broke up and she's ready to run back to him if he calls, I related to that so fucking hard. That, for reasons I'm not going to get into, that hit so close to home. And again, I like the way she actually wrote those poems. Those were not the simple one-sentence lines. Like, those had all the flowery language I was looking for. But then she also has a you section where she's out empowering other women. But again, I have seen those poems over and over again. Some of them were similar to Lovelace's poetry. Like, I'm not accusing anyone of plagiarism. I'm just saying sentence structure they chose was just so common, and their cliches. Like, there's just some poems in both of their collections where if I were to turn that into my high school teacher, she'd tell me, please think of something more original. Because I swear there's one poem in this collection about hair, about how women shouldn't have to shave their legs and all that because we all have hair. And I forgot what the exact sentence was. It was just that I've seen the sentence before, like on Tumblr, on Twitter. Amanda Lovelace wrote a similar one. And again, there are just other poems that I've seen on my elementary school motivational posters. And it's like, I'm yearning for something new. If she wrote a collection that was just the style of her longer poems, I would buy that shit up. I would eat that shit up. That's what I want to read. Her longer poems were great. The shorter ones I was just not a fan of. So the next book I read is, again, another book turned to Disney movie, and I did not know this was a Disney movie until recently, so I was like, alright, I'll just read this book to get it out of the way. But it's Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day by Judith Vorst. I gave this 4 stars. It's a children's book. I remember, I remember in 1st grade, we had a library in the school, and it was like the main room, and then there was like a back room where she would take the younger kids, and then we all sat on the carpet as she read us a book, and I'm pretty sure this is one of the books she read to us. But, she would do the thing all the young teachers do, where the book faces you, so, they're reading upside down like this. Fond memories. I remember HBO Kids had a special about this book. Like, I could still remember the song that was in all the commercials. I miss when gum in my hair was the most of my concerns and not even below the least of my concerns. Missing those days. And then the last book I read in August, I literally finished this August 31st, is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I am rereading this series for pure enjoyment, also because Midnight Sun came out. This was a 5-star read when I was younger, but now it's a 3.5-star read. I did a whole vlog about this, so I don't want to get into too much detail. I'll link the vlog so you can watch it. But to summarize, there's just things in here that worked when I was 12, would not have worked now. Do not work now, actually. A lot of this story is told through dialogue. Bella's constantly sighing. Bella's really boring. Forgot how boring she was. And I know Stephanie Meyer did that on purpose. It just doesn't read well. Also, when she introduced Jacob, I was a little uncomfortable with how she described the Native Americans. And also, the first half of the book was boring. The baseball scene's when it picked up. But I do remember this book being my least favorite when I was younger. New Moon was my favorite, which apparently is an unpopular opinion. It might change during the reread. I don't know. I'm only halfway through New Moon, but you'll see my opinion in that vlog. So I'm just gonna do a quick overview of my September TBR because it really hasn't changed. So The Thornbirds by Colleen McCullough is still on it. I was reading this throughout August. It's so boring. And I want to DNF it, but my cousin really wants me to read this, so I'm gonna push through. I've been telling myself to read a chapter every day during my Twilight spree. That has not been working out. I've not picked up this book in 2 weeks. I will also be finishing New Moon. I'm over halfway through it. This book is really damaged. This bothers me because of all my Twilight books, this is the only one with the movie cover and not the original, and it saddens me because New Moon has the prettiest. Also, this book is insanely cheaper compared to the original because this is so damaged and I don't understand why. And every day I discover new damage to it. So, video plans for October and somewhat September, because I want to finish off September with like the Twilight reading vlogs and also the Hunger Games movies, since I still have to do both Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. I have also recently finished watching Legend of Korra, so I want to do a tier ranking of the characters, which is going to be hard because there's a lot on great tier, there's some on good tier. No one's on God tier. As for October, because I may or may not have a job, I find that out in 2 days, so fingers crossed, I don't really want to jinx anything. October, assuming I get the job, October, like, life is gonna pick up, maybe, again. So, and because I'm only reading, like, the one book, It by Stephen King, and I'm gonna say the one book because of how big that book is, I want to do more movie reactions, because I kind of want to do them on my channel. I think it would be really cool to, like, read books and then do their movies. So, for example, how I did it with the Hunger Games, how I'm doing I've reread those books, now I'm doing the movie reactions. I'm rereading Twilight, I'm going to do movie reactions for those. So I just think it would be cool to do that for other books as well, but that's like past October. But in October, there's 5 Saturdays in October. So every Saturday I want to post a movie reaction to a classic horror film I have never seen. So far on my list, I have the one Nosferatu, I think, the German vampire. The Birds is on my list. Psycho. I know the ending to Psycho, but I've never seen Psycho. Also, fun fact, that movie's the reason why when I was younger, I was horrified, scared to take showers because my parents were watching the movie and like I peeked in just in time to see the woman get stabbed in her shower. I was horrified, so that's a fun fact. Rosemary's Baby, and then Vincent Price's House of Wax. Those are the 5 movies I'm looking forward to. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to them as well, because I think it'll be fun, and I'm going to post them in the order they came out. So like Nosferatu will be first because it came out in 1922, and I think Rosemary's Baby's last because it's the oldest on the list. It's 1968. And then I want to do something similar in December, because there's 4 Saturdays in December before, 3 before Christmas, 1 is December 26th, so I'm just going to count it. So I want to do like classic Christmas movies I've never seen. Like I want to do Holiday Inn, I want to do Miracle on 34th Street, the original, because the only one I've seen was the one with Mara Wilson. So that's kind of like where I want to take the direction of this channel. I purposely made the username Dom P is here because it is generic, and I'm like, I change my mind all the time. I get bored of things, so I'm constantly like changing how I do shit. So that's why it's generic, just so I could like have free reign to do whatever the hell I want. Stick around, because I know some of you subscribe for books. I'm getting a lot of subscribers with the movies, so just know if you're here for the books, I'm going to be involving movies now. If you're here for the movies, I will be involving books. And I think that is that. I have not sat down and filmed a bookish video in a while. Every sit-down video in the past has been like movies recently and my Avatar tier ranking that you guys should watch. But like whenever I do books, it's just vlogs. So I haven't done this in a while. It was nice to catch up with y'all. Before I start rambling, I'm just going to say I hope you guys have a great September. Hopefully it doesn't feel like a fever dream like the rest of the year feels like. Please pray for me that I fucking finish Tokyo Ghoul. I have 1 volume left and I haven't even touched it last month when I meant to. But other than that, I'm going to peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao, tutti!